These are the AirPods Max 2nd gens, and I've been using them for the past couple of weeks now extensively, traveling around the globe, literally, on planes, using these non-stop. And I'm gonna be giving you my full review on them. Spoiler alert, these are a great wireless pair of headphones. So let's begin. Okay, so let's first of all start with the design. Now, in a classic Apple manner, if you see these on the street, they're instantly recognizable as the AirPods Maxes. They just have this flamboyant design, like with the different finishes you can get, which I am a fan of, to be honest. I like that it's minimalist. You don't have any Apple branding. You just have these nice aluminum cups, and you can get the 5 different finishes. I have the midnight, but there's also blue, violet, orange, and starlight. And for headphones that cost £500 in the UK, yeah, for that price, you should expect good materials quality, and I think these do. The headband has this nice mesh and like silicone finish, which sits very nicely on top of your head, very flush. The only parts that really stick out, and that's really if you have a person with a small head like myself, are the ear cups themselves. They are quite chunky, which some of you may not like, but frankly, I don't really care. The midnight color definitely helps to like keep these understated when you're wearing them than the lighter colors. But still, yeah, if you're a person with a small head like myself, you might not like the big chunky ear cup, the way they sit on your head. But other than that, yeah, like the material quality is lovely. I love the stainless steel sliders for the headband adjustment. They're so smooth and so high quality. The aluminum ear cups, the buttons, these have to be the best headphone control buttons ever made. In a classic Apple manner, obviously they thought of this. You have two controls. You have the switch for your modes, which switches between transparency, noise cancellation, and off, your noise control. And then you have a digital crown, which we're familiar from the Apple Watches, which is just so intuitive and easy to use. It allows you to adjust your volume by obviously scrolling, and by pressing it, that's your playback controls, your play and pause and skip and reverse tracks, and your Siri for long press. Really the best touch controls on any headphones ever. On the AirPods Maxes, you do not have an off switch. The headphones go into an low power mode by getting into the sleeve that is provided with them. Now, why does Apple do this? It's for really plainly for convenience, because so that allows you to take out your AirPods Maxes and they go instantly into pairing mode, pairing with your Apple device, whichever you may be using, with the Apple's proprietary H1 chip. Now, the AirPods Maxes did get updated. These are the 2nd gens, like I mentioned. And really the difference is the USB-C connectivity, which is just great. The USB-C connectivity now allows you to connect a USB-C cable and playback media straight with a USB-C cable with up to 24-bit 48 kilohertz playback. Now also you can get Apple's own USB-C to 3.5 millimeter cable. Now it is a price accessory costing around £40, but I would definitely recommend getting this because it allows you to connect your AirPods Maxes to stuff like the in-flight entertainment systems on planes. And also it just allows you to use these wires should you choose to, providing up to 24-bit 48 kilohertz playback. And if you really want to get the most high fidelity audio out of your AirPods Maxes, this is the way to do it. I know using these wired is an abomination because these are wireless headphones, but hi-fi lovers might appreciate this. Because in terms of specs, they do have some hi-fi specs. Surprisingly, I found out that these have custom designed Apple 40mm drivers, but the drivers themselves have neodymium dual ring magnets, which essentially is a big deal in the hi-fi world. Neodymium magnets are used for hi-fi grade speakers for low distortion and high bass. And the bass on these is great. It's especially if you use spatial audio. I was surprised how punchy the bass is and how clean it is without any distortion. And overall, now we can talk about the sound quality. The sound quality on these is amazing. It's really good out of the box, which surprised me. With a lot of headphones, I usually need to adjust the EQ that's provided in their app. But not with these. I was surprised how good these sound up straight out of the box. It has a really flat, like, sound profile, but in a good way. Like, you have the highs, you have the vocals, the mids, and then you have the bass, which is just at the right amount. And in terms of volume, they get really loud. So loud that you do have a lot of sound leakage. You do want to be mindful of those around you if you use these at 75% volume or higher. But really, with the noise cancellation that these have, you really won't find yourself passing 50% of volume or higher, because the noise cancellation is that good that you don't really need to put these very loudly. Having used these on the plane for like 20 plus hours, the noise cancellation is very good. And so is the transparency mode. I think the AirPods Maxes might have the best transparency mode out of any headphones compared to its competitors. In terms of noise cancellation mode, these are still dethroned by the Sonys, but still very, very good noise cancellation levels. Now, in terms of phone calling, I did use these a bit for phone calls, but I did find myself that the microphones are too sensitive, i.e. the gain on them is set too high, and I couldn't really find any way to eliminate background noise. So yeah, in terms of phone calls, if you're in a loud environment, they're not really the best. And in terms of battery life, Apple claims up to 20 hours with spatial audio and active noise cancellation, which seems to be about right, having used these for like 17 hours nonstop when flying and connecting through AirPods, basically not taking them off my head. I got around 17 hours with 20% of battery remaining. So yeah, good battery life on these if you're planning to take these long haul on flights. Now, in terms of complaints or issues, gripes, really the only issue I found with these is I did notice a bit of popping from the headphones, but that seems to me like a firmware issue. Now, the reason why I say this is because it's only noticeable when you play music very loudly, when it's set to noise cancellation. If you turn noise cancellation off, it disappears. So that seems to me like a firmware issue. It seems like a noise cancellation issue. When you play really loud songs that have lots of bass, you will notice a little bit of popping. But if you turn noise cancellation off, the popping disappears. So that's something Apple needs to resolve with a firmware update. But other than that, really, I have had no issues with these. I guess you could complain that these don't fold. Like once they get into their sleeves, which a lot of people make fun of, that it looks like a woman's bra. They can be quite big. I found them to be actually quite compact. Now, the reason is because this sleeve is not that big. It's, thin silicone. The AirPods Maxes themselves are quite thin, so they don't actually take up much space in your bag. Yes, they're quite wide and, tall, but they're not that, fat. And unlike a lot of other headphones that have cases, these cases tend to be fat, so they actually end up taking up more space than these. So it's quite, genius, you could say, that Apple supplied this sleeve instead of the traditional, cases that a lot of other brands supply. Yes, this sleeve does not provide protection. It provides just enough protection, but it's not going to provide you good protection for these aluminum cups, but you can get protective cases for these, so that can be resolved. And now let me talk about my favorite settings. So for listening to music, I obviously use Qobuz because Qobuz is just superior, but I don't use Dolby Atmos if I choose to use Apple Music. Apple Music has Dolby Atmos, which Qobuz does not, and I prefer to have that off even with spatial audio. Spatial audio really brings the music alive. It gives you a sense of immersion, like it gives you a wider soundstage, and in some cases provides much better bass, like much better bass. And I would definitely recommend setting up personalized spatial audio if you want to really get the most out of spatial audio. But I don't use Dolby Atmos. I'm not a fan of Dolby Atmos. I found it to be really lacking in terms of like a lot of detail. Like a lot of the music that is recorded with Dolby Atmos is just laid back. You really miss out on a lot of like detail and presence. So I prefer to keep that off, but I still use with spatial audio on. I think that is the way to use these AirPods Maxes. If you use them wired, like with this cable, the 3.5mm to the USB-C one, you cannot use spatial audio, but you can still use noise cancellation and transparency mode. But I would definitely, like, if you want to get the most high fidelity audio out of them, definitely get this cable. You get so much volume if you use them wired and more detail and just overall crispier sound. After all, Bluetooth is limited by being lossy. With wired playback, you get lossless playback. So yeah, that would be good for audio files. And yeah, I'm surprised. I guess you could literally call these, I mean, obviously with the premium price tag these could be a pair of, you know, hi-fi grade wireless headphones. Provided that the specs these come with. Of course, you have like high-end headphones from Bowers and Wilkins and Focal, which are much more expensive than these are. But these will not. But these will provide the convenience that those won't, provided that you have an Apple device. With the Apple ecosystem, these are just fantastic accessory that makes, you know, traveling and just your day-to-day life a lot more fun with a nice pair of good sounding headphones. So yeah, overall, my impression on the AirPods Max, I love them. They're great. I wasn't a fan of them, but of course, now owning them, yeah, these are great wireless headphones. Now, are they worth £500? I would say yes. You get good sound quality, really good sound quality compared to Apple's earbuds, which, you know, I wouldn't really call hi-fi grade. These are like pushing to hi-fi grade sound quality. And yeah, you get good noise cancellation, good materials quality, just overall good pair of headphones. So yeah, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you again in the next video.